Good evening and welcome into episode 8 of the Rich Petroski Show. Happy to be joined, as always, by the St. Joseph Chargers head football coach, Rich Petroski. I'm Connor Klingna. Thank you for joining us. We are live from the St. Joseph High School football team dinner, as we have been for the last few weeks. And as always, we'd like to remind you that tonight's show is brought to you by Meatheads in Elmhurst, a place you can enjoy with your whole family from the moment you walk into the door until the moment you leave. Meatheads at 143 North York Street in Elmhurst. Coach, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing. Not much I'm doing here, but I'm doing pretty good.
Bears game tonight.
Yeah.
So that should be exciting. Bears-Packers, as always. But, Coach, finally starting to feel like fall a little bit this week at least.
Finally. That's the biggest thing is finally we're starting to get the cool weather and everything. And, you know, I mean, I think that will help us out a little bit.
And Coach, with a 9-game season, obviously 2-3 isn't where you guys wanted to be. But how would you evaluate the team's performance considering how young you guys are?
Actually, you can't really fault them for anything right now. We're moving in the right direction. We got a good part of our schedule going on right here, so I really like how we end our schedule. I don't like Brother Rice in there, but you know what I mean. I like the way our schedule's played out for us because realistically we can win 4 games in a row, and now we're 6-3, and now we're the middle of the pack for the playoffs. So.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, we're going to have another player come on the show. It's going to be this time Makai Eland, and Makai plays both sides of the football for St. Joseph. Makai, how you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing good.
Glad to have you on here. And Makai, what year are you?
I'm a sophomore.
So you're just a sophomore, and you're starting on varsity, both sides of the football. How great of an accomplishment is that for you?
It's big. It's a lot of pressure, though. But, you know, I'll try to hang in there, do my job and get out of there.
You guys have a bit of a younger team, lost 14 seniors from last season's team. How is this group kind of building chemistry this season?
We starting to – well, we doing good, but it's not – we got to move faster. We got to keep pushing, and then, we just got to do better.
And which side of the ball do you prefer playing, offense or defense, or is it kind of both? You just love both of them?
It's like both. Yeah, it's like both. Yeah, I like both better.
And what position do you play on each side for the fans at home?
On defense, I play middle linebacker and sometimes defensive end, depending on how the defense goes. And on offense, I play tight end and sometimes wide out.
And you had some big catches in that game against St. Ignatius. Take us through some of those plays. I remember that one, the screen pass. You guys were kind of backed up against the goal line. You made a big 17-yard catch, I think it was.
Yeah, that was one of the plays that I really liked, especially when I go in the tight end. It was one when I had to go up and do the seam, and I caught it. I just ran as fast as I can.
And you definitely looked pretty fast out there. And you also had a defensive touchdown earlier this season against Catalyst Maria. What was that moment like?
The ball came out, and I heard one of my defensive tackle, he yelled out ball, so I saw it. It was right in front of me, so I just scooped it and ran it to the touchdown,
And that worked out. And was that your first varsity touchdown?
Yes, that was actually my first varsity one.
Very cool, very cool. And Makai, you've just been here for 2 years. So you actually, your freshman year was the year, the first playoff season and everything. But from when you knew St. Joseph before you came here, how much has this program changed since Coach Petroski has come in?
Oh, it changed a lot because, my brother was here, and they didn't really have that much good of a season when they was here. But now that, we have Coach Petroski coming in, working in, we've been doing good so far.
Absolutely, and you've still got 3 years, 2 years after this year, but how exciting is that for you moving forward, knowing how well you've done this year as a sophomore on varsity?
Oh, it's good because, now I got the experience. I could go in and go to work the first game starting, and I could do better because, the first game I was kind of nervous because I wasn't used to it. It was a different atmosphere. The competition level was higher, and I wasn't used to it, so, I had to get my feet wet a little bit.
And was that touchdown? Was that your favorite moment of the season so far?
Nah, it was it was that game, but I had an interception that game too. Yeah, I like that one because that one just came out of nowhere. I reacted real fast to it, so I just go ahead and ran to the as far as I can.
Just didn't think you'd be able to get an interception?
Yeah. It happened so fast, that's why.
It all moves quickly. But, Makai, what's your favorite part of just being a student here at St. Joseph?
Favorite part is basically homecoming week because that's when everybody just come out, have fun, not worried about nothing. not getting detentions as much. We just out here having fun. Not worried about nothing. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, and you could see the school was decorated and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I've asked some of the other players, do you feel like the school kind of rallies around the football team more than in the past?
Yeah, because they starting to see that we moving. We starting to get the wins in, getting the win streaks going. So yeah, I see it.
And you guys also have a really strong freshman class along with your sophomore class. Have you kind of taken on, even though you're still a sophomore, a little bit of a mentoring role to those younger guys?
Yeah, because they not really used to it like how I was. Yeah, because I felt the same they first game. I was nervous. I had the butterflies in my stomach. I didn't know what to do. But the sophomores that was playing, they told me you just got to push through it. You just got to go out there and play your game.
Are the butterflies starting to go away a little bit?
Oh, yeah, it's been away after that homecoming game against College Maria. And then, I got that first hit. It's been gone.
And that was a big win for you guys. That's the first time in school history winning back-to-back homecoming games. How cool was that for the team?
That felt good. We all loved it. We came out there, did our game, and got up out of there quick.
And that was a shutout victory. And you guys earlier this season against South Beloit and Catalyst Maria had 2 consecutive shutouts, 8 quarters of shutout football. What did it feel like to play on the defense for those 8 quarters to shut everyone out?
It felt good, but, we had to get taken out because, we couldn't risk no injury
right.
getting hurt. But I wish I could have stayed out there longer to get more tackles and get the stats up a little bit. But, I had to get out and do what's best for the team.
Well, you're racking up plenty of stats anyway. Makai, thank you so much for coming
No
out.
problem.
Appreciate it. So we'll go back now to Coach Petroski, and thank you for letting us have Makai on. And really enjoyed every player that we've had on the show this season.
Yeah,
they're a lot of fun.
They're loving it. You know what I mean? They're soaking it up, really. The biggest thing is that we're doing something completely different here that we've never done before with you being here and you broadcasting the games. And, you know what I mean? These kids don't know how much publicity they're getting. Every Thursday, it's so funny because we have cameras out there. We have different people out there talking to us and, you know what I mean, talking to me, talking to the players. Everybody just looks at it and they're like, Coach, what is this week? What is now going on? What is this now going on? What is this now going on? And I'm just like, it's just one of those things. And, it's great for the kids because everything I'm doing is for them. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to get our name out. You know what I mean? Like, we do have a great group of freshmen, but, you know what I mean? The continued success here, we need those good group of freshmen to keep coming in. So,
yeah, definitely. And we've been happy to broadcast for you guys all season, having a lot of fun doing the show and the games as well. Coach, we'll keep evaluating the team so far, kind of. What's been the biggest surprise so far this season?
Honestly, how we've grown since week 1. You know what I mean? We took one on the chin and everything like that, but every week we kept growing and growing and growing as a team. And they're realizing that, you know what I mean, we can do this. We can win. And it's just that they have to understand that we are going to win. And at the end of the day, they just have to mature.
And, Coach, down the stretch of these final 4 games, you mentioned it earlier, a chance to get to the playoffs. What do you feel like the team needs to improve the most to get that playoff berth?
It comes down to a mentality. We know what we can control. We just have to make sure that we control what we can control. And it comes down to a mental aspect there. If we do our mental aspect, if we play the game we know how to play, there's not many teams that are going to stop us. Perfect example, Hope didn't stop us. You know what I mean? It's just that we came up short. Ignatius last week didn't stop us. We just came up short. And, you know what I mean? That's one of the things that we're working on better this week. So,
just kind of a matter of finishing drives and finishing games.
Exactly. And that's where it comes in. You know what I mean? Because going into the fourth quarter, it was 16-13. You know what I mean? And that game is very, very in our grasp. And the big thing about it is that I was just looking at it today, and they have 2,400 students in their school, and we have 300. So they got 2,100 more kids than we do in the whole school. And, you know what I mean? And we kept them to 16 points. You know what I mean? The last touchdown they got, you know what I mean? You can't really blame the refs for what they did, but, you know what I mean? The refs were, again, against us, but we know that going in and things, so we just have to take care of our business.
And at this time, we'd like to remind you tonight's episode of the Rich Petroski Show is also brought to you by CleaverSupplements.com. Cleaver Supplements for when genetics are not enough. And now we'll go through a recap of last week's 30-13 loss at St. Ignatius. But as you just said, and I tweeted it out after the game, so much closer than that final score, 16-13 going into the fourth quarter. Starting off in the first half, the first drive for Ignatius offensively, they methodically worked their way down the field, running the ball. How difficult was that triple option to adjust to?
You know what? We knew what they were going to do. It wasn't very, you know what I mean? That's the thing about the teams that we play. We know what they're going to run coming in because they haven't changed their offense in 20, 40 years. So it's just we had a down week of practice this week, and not having 11 guys that played out there at one time. And, you know what I mean, that kind of hurt us. But at the same token, you know what I mean, the kids that went in, they did what they were supposed to do. And it's just a couple missed tackles here, a couple missed tackles there. We were in the right position. It's just a missed tackle. And if we make that tackle, who knows what happens with that game.
Well, really, in that first quarter, early part of the second quarter, Ignatius is kind of dominating the field position, but your defense really stood up. They stopped them on one drive, held them to a field goal on another. How impressed were you by that, the defense making that adjustment and being able to hold them?
Again, you know what I mean? My hat's off to my defensive coordinator. I say it every week. If I didn't have him, I don't know where would it be defensively. Because right now, we've given up the least amount of points in our whole conference. We've only given up 74 points in our whole conference, and that's actually leading the conference in points against. So right there shows you that the kids bought into what he's talking, and we just have to keep it going. But, you know what I mean, they did a great job, you know what I mean, especially holding them to 3 points. And I don't think they were even expecting to kick a field goal in that game. So.
And Ignatius didn't pass very much, but when they did, the quarterback was pretty much on his back the second that he dropped back. So was that kind of the goal going in, is just get them into those passing situations, the second and third and long, and then use that pass rush? You could see the speed just kind of overwhelmed them.
Yeah, you know what I mean, and that's what we talked about all week. They said that if we get them on third down, they're going to try to throw the ball. They're going to try to throw the ball. They're going to have no chance to throw the football. We're just, you know what I mean, our interior front isn't the biggest, but we're quick, and that's what a lot of teams have to contest with. And, you know what I mean, the teams that we played, they haven't been able to keep up with our speed, and that's been our dominant thing so far.
Certainly has been. And, hey, Charger fans, don't forget to stop by Meatheads at 143 North York Street in Elmhurst and enjoy our fast casual family restaurant that serves fresh experiences. Meatheads at 143 North York Street in Elmhurst. Offensively, you guys struggled a little bit to get going early, but then your offense really got going when you had a drive that started from your own 2-yard line. Pretty impressive. First, it was a little screen pass it was a little pass up the middle to Mackay that he picked up 17 yards from the 1-yard line back then, and then there was the 74-yard deflected pass to Zach Ford. What really stood out to you on those two plays?
Actually, all week we've been that's a play that we put in. We actually put it in like week 1, right before week 1, because I actually saw it on Twitter, to be honest with you. I saw it on Twitter, and I went to my quarterback coach. I'm like, I really like this play. He's like, yeah. So I'm like, okay, let's see how it works. And, you know what I mean, with the way they were covering us, he's just like, hey, run it. Hey, run it. Hey, run it. Hey, run it. And I'm like, okay. We just kept running it, and they still didn't stop it. Even though they knew it was coming, they couldn't stop it. And that was the biggest thing. But on a deflected pass, I don't even know what happened on the deflected pass, to be honest with you. I called a play, and I'm looking, and then next thing you know, all I know is that Zach is looking up in the air and catching the ball and running. And I look, and I ask him, I go, what happened? He goes, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know either. What just happened there that he caught the ball and ran it like that? So we don't even know what happened. We just know Zach caught the ball, and he ended up. Now, I don't know if you saw a better advantage view, but from where we were, he was out at the 1.
In terms of when he got to the inside the 10.
Yeah.
Well, when I had it on the call, it was tough for me to see. But
Yeah.
I said he was at least inside the 5.
Yeah.
And then they marked him out at the 8. So I was a little confused by that.
Well, from our vantage point, he was at the 1. So that's why I'm like, and I called a play for the 1 yard line. And next thing I know, I look back and they're at the 8 yard line. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not the right spot. But okay.
Well, it didn't matter anyway because a couple of plays later, a beautiful throw and catch in the back of the end zone. It was Malik Mason who had it. I couldn't tell from my vantage point. It was kind of in a crowd, leaping catch. How impressed with that, his athleticism on that play.
We're just waiting for it to come out, you know what I mean? And because he's a basketball player here, he can dunk and everything like that. So we knew it was there, you know what I mean? We saw it all summer. It was just get him in the right position to get him up there and get him out there and get him to jump for the ball, so.
And then after that touchdown, rest of the half, you guys hold them without a score. And I said it on the air. It seemed like you guys had all the momentum going into the locker room. Did you get that sense as well?
Yeah, they were. When we walked in, they were actually in the hallway as we were going down to the locker room. And they're like, can't really say it on the air, but, you know what I mean? They were swearing. How is St. Joe's doing this to us, yada, yada, yada. And, you know what I mean? When we went downstairs, that was the biggest thing we were trying to tell them. Look, they're arguing with each other. We have to take advantage of this now. And, you know what I mean, that second half kickoff, I don't know what happened on the kickoff, but, you know what I mean, we stalled out and, you know what I mean, we have to sustain drives. And I think that's the biggest thing we have to do.
And tonight's show is brought to you by Meatheads, the official sponsor of St. Joseph Chargers football programming. We provide a full-service, made-to-order dining experience serving high-quality, fresh, never-frozen ingredients, including 100% Angus beef hamburgers, hand-breaded chicken tenders, and chicken sandwiches, as well as real Idaho potatoes freshly cut every day. Meatheads at 143 North York Street in Elmhurst. Second half, as you said, you guys stalled out a little bit. Ignatius is able to score, so you find yourselves down 16-6. But last year, obviously, you guys had that big comeback against Leo, I believe. Did that kind of give you confidence down by 10 points in the second half to say, hey, we can come back in this ballgame?
Actually, every game we've been down, there's no doubts in my mind, especially how athletic we are. There's no doubt in my mind that even if we're down by 1 point, we have a chance to come back and beat them. So I was very confident that we can come back. It was nothing. And actually, I was telling my quarterback coach again on the headset, I go, if you give me one more drive, we will win this game. Give me one more drive. I was just asking the defensive coordinator. Give me one more drive, we'll win this game. And, you know what I mean, it didn't work out in our favor, but, you know.
Well, in that third quarter, though, you did have a really impressive play. Caleb Hayden and Malik connecting on a really exciting play. Caleb kind of avoided some pressure, was able to find Malik wide open. I think his defender fell down there, and then he ran it in about 35 yards. How fun was that play to watch?
Again, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. When the ball's up in the air like that, I don't watch it. I'm more, and I think this is my problem. I'm already looking at this, because if we don't score, what's my next play? And that's what I'm thinking about. I hear the people going crazy. I hear the fans going crazy. I hear the sideline going crazy. That's how I know I scored. I don't, it's kind of funny because that's exactly why I tell my kickers. I go, don't look at the ball. Everybody else will tell you if it goes through or not. And that's a perfect example for me because I have no clue what's going on the field until I look at the next play.
Well, that's, the right way to do it, looking ahead to the next situation. And in that case, it was just bringing out the PAT.
Yeah.
But definitely a really great game for Malik, having those 2 touchdown catches. And as you said, you're just kind of waiting for that athleticism to show. It really did in that game Friday night.
You know what I mean? And the great thing about it is he's only a junior. And I really think our juniors are going to be exciting to watch. And I don't think they really realize how good they really are yet. And I think that's what the scary part of this, that they don't know how good we really are as a team. And that's why I'm saying if we could sneak in at 5-4 or get that 6th win, people are going to not be expecting what we can do until they see us on film. And when they see us on film, they'll be like, yeah, we have a lot to cover here. So we're just hoping and praying that we do get in and we get to the right point and the sky's the limit for us.
I mean, once you get to those playoffs, anything can happen.
Exactly.
And especially with a younger team. You know, losing those 14 seniors, they're starting to grow a little bit every single game.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And that's a big thing. Even these freshmen and sophomores that are playing up on varsity because we haven't had a JV game in 2 weeks, those guys are even stepping up and showing that they can get in there and play and things like that.
So a point showing that this team is growing, playing a much bigger school. You're only down by 3 points going into the fourth quarter. I could see the sideline was pretty pumped up at that point to be within 3, a game you were down by 10 on the road. How excited were you going into that fourth quarter? And you said you just needed that one more drive, could have won the ball game.
You know, I was really excited about it because, like I said, with that, you know what I mean, we were down 3, but – you know what I mean? I didn't even look at us actually down 3. I thought, you know what I mean, at the point of we get the ball, we're scoring because that's how we were. And Malik actually dropped a touchdown. That would have been another touchdown if Malik would have caught that because that went right through his arms. But, you know what I mean? And that's the way we are, you know what I mean? We're, you know what I mean, last year we were a big play team. This year I think we're even a bigger play team, and we're just one play away from scoring.
Yeah, sometimes it can just be that boom or bust on those big plays. As you were talking about that one on the sidelines just right through his hands. I could certainly see he was a little frustrated afterwards.
Yeah, a little bit. So, but yeah, you know what I mean? And the thing about it is that we're teaching them that we have to go to the next play. The next play is what's worth more than the play that you did or didn't do what you were supposed to. Just go to the next play. So,
well, unfortunately, St. Ignatius would score 2 more touchdowns. On the second one, a bit of a confusing call on a 2-point conversion attempt. And we talked a little bit about this earlier. They called a face mask on Antonio Hardaway, but I'm not really sure what happened. I thought maybe it could have been a horse collar, but either way, we were both saying it probably should have been enforced on the kickoff.
And the thing about it is I looked at it on film, and it wasn't anything. What happened was that his hand came through the front of his jersey, and he slipped all the way down. And they're like, well, all of us saw it, Coach. And I'm like, well, first of all, if all of you saw it, there was only one flag on the field, but all of you guys saw it. How is that? And you know what I mean? And I don't know. It was just it was a bang play. Even if they did get it, you know what I mean? Well, they missed it, so the point attempt was incomplete, so they don't get to repeat point after attempt. And that's what I kept trying to explain to them, but of course they weren't listening to me. So,
well, definitely a tough break there. As final score, as I said earlier, it ended up being 30-13, but really a lot closer to the whole game. And you guys had that momentum at a lot of points in the ball game.
Yeah.
And at this time, we'd like to remind you tonight's episode of the Rich Petroski Show is also brought to you by CleaverSupplements.com. Cleaver Supplements for when genetics are not enough. Well, at this point in the season, kind of just getting past that halfway point. Now 5 games in, 4 games left. I thought we'd take a moment to let the fans out there get a chance to know you, Coach Petroski, a little bit of your background. What was your first introduction to the game of football? So we're going way back
here.
Yeah,
you're going way back. Well, not way back because I'm only 37, so it's not way back. But I was an 8th grader in Cicero. I grew up in Cicero, Berwyn area, and then I grew up in Bridgeport, right by Comiskey Field. I will never say whatever the name of the field is now. It's always Comiskey Park to me. I don't care what anybody tells me. But, yeah, so I grew up in that area, and coming to Berwyn, Cicero, I was going to Morton, and our coach was just put an 8th grade team together, and they're just like, hey, we want you to try out for this. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I was a big baseball guy, so I was on the All-Star team for baseball all my life. Like every year I was on the All-Star team. I think until I was like 17, that was the only year I didn't make the All-Star team. And that was the only reason because I told them I didn't want to play that year. But, yeah, football, it was a second sport to me, to be honest with you. And, you know what I mean, when I got into high school, I just fell in love with it.
That's the way it tends to go. And what position did you play primarily?
I played linebacker, tight end. Actually, I was Mackay in high school, to be honest with you. I played a lot of different positions. But when I first started, I'm like, let me try running back. And, yeah, I figured out I wasn't fast enough for running back. So I'm like, let me go hit somebody. And so I went on defense. I played linebacker and things like that. So it was a great experience for me.
And what made you decide to get into coaching later on?
Actually, it's a funny story. My good friend at the time, his name is Dragon Tianik. He's actually the head coach at Elgin Larkin now. We were sophomores in high school, and we were dorks, and we used to sit in my basement, and we used to break down film. And we used to break down Penn State film. And I could tell you on third and forever, Penn State was going to be in a cover 2 shell at a sophomore in high school. So I think right then and there, I knew that coaching football was something I was destined to do. So
a football mind from early on.
Yeah.
So how did you end up getting connected with St. Joseph?
Funny story there, too. This is actually my second tour here. I coached here in 2001. In 2001, I coached here, and I was the wide receivers coach. And then I was on the freshman sophomore team, JV kind of. So I coached there, and then what happened is that I was a head coach in the city at DRW College Prep. It's on Roosevelt and Holman. And what happened is that me and the principal didn't see eye to eye there. So I'm like, you know what? Let me look for other endeavors. And so I called up Anthony Griffin, which was the head coach here at the time. I'm like, hey, do you got any openings? He goes, a previous head coach, you better believe I have an opening here. I don't care where you go, you're going to be on my staff. So I'm like, okay. So that year I came over here. I was a linebackers coach, and then I ended up got the head wrestling job. And then Griff stepped down as the head football coach, and lo and behold, I apply, I get the interview, and next thing you know, in March of 2 years ago, they announced me as a head football coach here, and I've been here ever since. So this is actually going on my third season as the head wrestling coach, second season as the head football coach. So
you really got it heading in the right direction. And
yeah.
And talking about you being a wrestling coach, how does that help you as a football coach, and kind of vice versa? How does being a football coach help you as a wrestling coach?
Wrestling, it's a completely different animal. It really is. And the great thing about it is that I tell my kids that aren't playing another sport during the winter, you're going to wrestle. And they're like, oh, coach, I don't know. I go, you don't understand why you're wrestling. There's a reason why you're wrestling. It's not just because, you know what I mean, I need the people. You're going out there because you're getting better for whatever sport you really want to play. So I've brainwashed them enough that's what they're going to do now. So, but yeah, wrestling and football go hand in hand. You can't get any two more sports that are hand in hand. It's kind of funny because I reference a lot of different things to a lot of different sports. One of our goalies was out there punting for me one day, and I told him, I go, hey, punting a football is just like spiking a ball in volleyball. And he goes, I don't get it, coach. And I demonstrated for him, and he's just like, wow, I never would have you could put every sport that you do in one. Like we have Ryan Flowers, which is a great baseball player, and when whenever I'm talking to him, I reference everything in baseball. Everything I do football-wise, I reference in baseball. I'm like, this is what you need to do for football, but put it as a baseball player. And he goes, I would have never thought that. And I'm like, that's how you have to think about everything, because everything goes along the same lines. It's just how you word it. So.
And I think that's the right way to do it, because in this era, a lot of the parents have getting more into this specialization, focusing one sport. But I agree with you. Every sport can help the other one.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And like our field goal kicker, Tank, every time he misses in practice, I go, all you're doing, Tank, is taking a step and swinging a bat, because all it is your hips. And he goes, what? I go, with your leg, think your leg is your bat, and you're planting and you're rotating your hips with your leg, and your leg is going to be what's going to hit the ball. And he did it, and he was putting it in like 34, 40 yards. he was putting it through the uprights like it was nothing. And the kid's never kicked a football before. And I'm like, see how easy that was? He goes, I would have never thought that you could reference kicking a football to baseball. I'm like, any good person, if you know your sport, you can reference to anybody. You can reference it to any sport, and you're going to figure out that, hey, this actually does go hand in hand with it.
That's the right way to do it. And, hey, Charger fans, don't forget to stop by Meatheads at 143 North York Street in Elmhurst and enjoy our fast casual family restaurant that serves fresh experiences. Coach, now that the fans have gotten to know you a little bit better, we'll go into previewing the game tomorrow. Unfortunately, with it being a 4:15 kickoff, I won't be able to make it there. I'm hoping you guys are able to pull out the win. You guys are taking on DePaul Prep. What do you know about scouting them so far?
If Leo wasn't our rival, DePaul would be. I could tell you right now, we don't like them. we don't like them one bit. But it's not as like we're going to start a fight. We don't like them. We just don't like them because, you know what I mean? Before I took over, Coach Brown was actually coaching here, and they stole one. They ended up coming back like we did against Leo, and they stole one from us. And that's all we talk about is that you can't let them steal anything from you. You know what I mean? You're at your house, you're sleeping. You can't let them steal this from you.
Well, it'll be a 4:15 start. How does that affect the game day routine?
It doesn't. We don't have school tomorrow.
Perfect.
Tomorrow is a development day here at the school, so we don't have school tomorrow, which works a little bit in our favor, but it doesn't work in our favor because now I'm trying to get the kids here at noon, and we're leaving on a bus at 1:30 because the Cubs are coming home and everything like that. And the last thing I need is for us to be stuck in traffic trying to get to a 4:15 game.
Well, especially if it's the Cubs.
Yeah, exactly.
As a White Sox fan myself. So, Coach, I'm sure you're really excited about this game, a chance to get your first conference win.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's going to be exciting. We know what they do. They know what we do. You know what I mean? We're exactly the same offensively and defensively. The only difference is that, in all honesty, no disrespect to DePaul, but we're bigger and faster than them. And if we don't show it on the scoreboard, there's something wrong there. You know what I mean? And like I said, Bill Jeske, the head coach over there, I have a great relationship with him. I talk to him all the time. You know what I mean? I reflect questions off of him because he's been in this league forever now, and he's a great guy. And then their defense coordinator is actually Dan Galante, which was the head coach of St. Pat's. So, you know what I mean? Those two guys have probably over like 80 years of coaching experience between the two, and you know what I mean? Together. So, you know what I mean? Talking to those guys, those are great guys to talk to, and you know what I mean? Me and Bill, I just talked to Bill the other day, and you know what I mean? We were talking, and he's just like, this is going to be a tough one because he knows what I have over here, and he knows what I'm bringing to the table, and he knows how we get after the ball. So, you know what I mean? And he knows exactly how we play our football. He's like, in the 2 years that you took over, you are completely night and day than what they were before. So,
well, and hopefully it'll prove out tomorrow afternoon, and the Chargers can pick up a victory. So that'll do it for this week. For Coach Rich Petroski, I'm Connor Klingon saying so long from St. Joseph High School here on Arena Sportsnet Chicago. Chargers football coverage will continue next Friday, October 6th at 7:30 as St. Joe will host Brother Rice from Elmhurst College.